living, working, and creating from the road in a Class B van along with my dog, Willie Nelson. Making friends by talking to strangers.
I'm Milo, and this is Milo Talks.
It's Easter Sunday, and I'm sitting in the backyard of my cousin's house in Austin, Texas, and it is noisy. It is not ideal for recording a podcast. And most of it is completely out of my control. The one thing I have control over is the fact that I gave Willie a treat, hoping that it will hold him long enough that he won't come up to bark at me and ask me to throw the ball. This is really great. Like, I have the whole backyard to myself. There are birds singing. There are children laughing in the neighbor's yard. You know, a train might come by, but so no, not ideal for recording outside, but ideal for just having a day to sit in a backyard. So today I'm going to have Paul. I'm about to call Paul, who would join me in a podcast once before. He's traveling in his van, and we are going to discuss and share my story of falling. And so here's my conversation with Paul.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm concerned that my signal might drop.
That's okay. I'm concerned about the birds chirping, the children screaming, dogs barking, and a train going by.
Is that what you have?
That's what I have. So we'll just roll with this.
All
And
right.
just see.
I have birds. But anyway.
Yeah, and my dog's now rolling in the grass, and who knows what that means. I mean, it could be just the grass, but when is it ever just the grass that dogs roll in?
Yeah, that's usually not good if they're rolling. I mean, it's good for them.
We are going to talk today. As you know, I fell about, I think it's like 4 weeks now. I think it's been 4 weeks since I fell.
Yeah, I think it's been a while.
It has been. And I was reminded by my aunt. She says, it's going to be months until you're better. That's how she talks. It's going to be months before you're better. Actually, she doesn't talk like that at all. But it's fun to do that. Because what if I had an aunt that spoke that way?
Where is she from?
Yeah, Texas. She doesn't talk like that way. She doesn't talk that way at all. But in my head, she might as well have had a cigarette hanging from her lips and saying to me, it's going to be months until you're better. You're not going to be the same after a fall like that. You're too old.
Yeah, I tell you what, it don't heal the same way.
No, you don't. And it's an injury on top of an old injury. So I will tell you, I slipped. I have a step that projects out of my van, and I slipped off the edge of it with my left foot coming down, which actually twisted the foot right under the step. So now I'm falling, and then as I'm falling, I'm trying to catch myself, I guess, with my right foot, which had been injured 4 years prior, the other direction. Like, so instead of a left fall, I had a right fall on that right foot. So now I feel like I had torn the right Achilles area and then twisted the outside ankle of my left foot. So now I'm laying on the ground with my dog on his leash because we were about to go for a walk. So I had my tennis shoes on. I did not have hiking boots on. I'm not sure if that would have helped me. I don't know.
No,
if the ankles
probably not.
Probably not. It was maybe I would have stepped differently had my shoe been different. Maybe the tread would, like, who knows? But I was in a tennis shoe. I was stepping around a trash bag I'd set on my step, which is why I was on the edge. I was stepping around it, missed the step, fell. Now I'm on my side on the ground. I'm in a campground where I don't know anybody, and I'm laying there. And in those seconds that I laid on the ground, I had to assess, like, how bad is this?
That's usually when you fall, you lay there a minute and you're like, okay, I got to wait for the pain to maximize and see just how bad it is.
Yes. So I lay there and can feel the swelling on my left foot and the sharp pain in my right foot. And then it occurs to me, I have damaged both feet and I'm at a campground and I'm also hours away from a family member or friend. Like, I'm not I'm not close. I'm close, but I'm not. I'm hours away, but I'm not minutes away from someone saying, "Hey, can you bring me a bag of ice and maybe help me?" Like that's not.
And how do you drive if it's both feet?
Right. Carefully with your toes. So but that was where I was at. So first it's like immediate care. What do I have? Nothing. First mistake. I have nothing. I don't have an ace bandage. I don't have anything. So what I do have is, because again, I am at a campground, so nobody saw me fall, which is good and bad. It would have been almost now there's basketball happening behind me, just so you know. There is, so my ego is like, yay, nobody saw me, but my other part of my brain was like, oh, I wish someone saw me, because it would be nice to have someone like say, can I help you? Because I would have then said, can you get me some ice? So I knew my first response was get some ice on my feet.
Because if they saw you, they would have immediately said, oh my God, you need help.
I hope I can let me just say this. I don't think anyone saw me, and if they did, they turned around and went another direction. But I would like to think no, because I was surrounded by kid scouts, like troops of kids with their troop master people. There's a ton of kids at this campground. So I would imagine first day would have been like, this would have been a great opportunity, but no one saw the lady fall out of her van.
They could have got a badge right there.
Right then and there. Instant badge. But no. First they should train people. They should be training children to look for injured people.
Well,
first, observe injury. No, of course not. I'm modest. No, I'm not modest, but I'm not even sure if that's the right word for what was going on in my head. No, but I was just hurt. So no, I didn't yell. Yeah. There was no, I quietly crashed to the ground.
A gentle thud.
Yeah, there was a soft thud. And I'm only laughing because I'm a month past it. But in the moment, like, this is very stressful, because not only I'm not on vacation. This is my life.
Yeah.
This is my life. So how am I going to do my life if I don't have my feet? Like you said, how am I going to drive? So I take it back. My first course of action was not to hobble and find ice. My first course of action was to make a phone call. I called the closest family member I had to say, I am putting you on notice that I have fallen. So I had my phone, because I was right outside my van. I was going for a hike. I had my phone. I had my dog on a leash. I held him. I called my aunt, who happens to be a nurse. And I said, I fell. I'm okay, but I have damaged both my feet. So she's like, put ice on it, get your feet elevated, take an anti-inflammatory. So she said all the right things, and I listened, but I'm again at a campground. So I had to cautiously walk to the next campground, which wasn't that far. People were unloading their car, and they had a cooler. I said, is there any way I can get some ice from you? And they said, we don't have ice. We have water bottles that are frozen. And I was like, I'm like, okay, that's okay. Okay. Oh, by the way, I did grab a plastic bag to bring ice back with me. So I had a bag, and I'm now shuffling down the road. I've hooked Willie to the van. He is back at the campsite looking at me going, I thought we were going for a hike. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, man. You're not going to hike for a long time. Okay, so and again, another really worrisome thought is like, what happens to my dog when I am unable to exercise him?
Yeah.
So I find some campers. I'm like, listen, I fell. I'm hurt. Can I get some ice? They said yes. They bring me some ice, and they put it in my bag. I shuffle back. I lay down. I put my feet on ice, and I start to plan, like, what next? What next? So with all that said, Paul, and knowing my story, do you have a fall plan?
I do not. But after we had talked and I knew you fell, I was thinking about just injury in general. And I thought, I remember asking my insurance before I left, like, I remember looking to see what happens if I'm not in state. But I don't remember what the answer is. But I knew I would be like, all right, well, I can get some urgent care if I need it. But as far as like where I would go, I don't know. I don't have a plan.
I mean, your insurance will. But if you had an incident, you could go to an urgent care. You have health insurance that you could go to an urgent care out of state.
Yes. And I'm sure it would only be covered at a smaller portion and everything else. But I don't think I'd be completely screwed.
Sure. And then do you have first aid on board? Do you have, what do you have on board for first aid?
I have delusional overconfidence.
That's a good thing to carry. Do you carry that in a glass case that can shatter?
Yeah. I think I have some whiskey and some Band-Aids. And I think I have, and I have like ibuprofen and I think I have an antihistamine. But as far as, I don't think I have any ace bandages, and I have a fridge and a freezer, but I don't have any ice.
Yeah. So my neck, when I was able to, and I did drive out the next day, so I have to, I ice and I think, and I have to slowly shuffle and walk the dog, and I have to like play ball with him and stay steady. Like all these things are happening. Like I'm having to still kind of continue, but and I have to slowly pack my van because I had been camping. So my hammock is out, my art supplies I'd been painting. Like I am spread out. So I start slowly gathering. I give him a chewy. He's on his leash, and I gather my things, and I do head to where my aunt is meeting me. She brings me, because this is what people do who love you, she brings me an entire shopping bag of first aid supplies.
Nice.
I have a wrist splint, two ankle splints, because she knew I'd hurt both feet. So she got two. I have ice, things for ice, things that you can put in a cooler to keep them cold and then apply them as needed. She brought me just two full first aid kits, and then she brought me like extra things like a cane. But it's because she knew my space was limited, she made it sure it was a collapsible cane.
Nice. Very thoughtful. Nice.
So she was trying to think about, listen, she's like, I know. The very first thing she said when this huge bag comes out is, I know you don't have a lot of space. Oh, let me see. She's got the cigarette dangling from her lips. She's like, darling, I know you don't have a lot of space, but I brought you all this stuff. And I need you to keep it all. But she brought me, like, if I were to cut myself, like blood spray or blood clotting something or other, like a full on, like for any injury I might get, she had it in that kit. And then of course I did get x-rays. I did get checked out. Nothing is broken, but because of the amount of damage I did, and because I'm older, like you pointed out nicely, I'm not healing quickly.
No. And I'm curious, when you stepped down, did you hear any of the tearing or anything?
The first injury I had when I rolled the right foot, there was a pop, and I knew that something bad had happened, and the whole foot took on a whole life of its own, completely tripled in size. This time, the left, it was just on the left side. It didn't surround the whole foot. It didn't seem as bad as that original one, but I'm telling you, the right foot that was damaged again, that Achilles, I felt like, I don't want to say I like tore it off, but it felt like a hard, like I damaged it. In fact, it is probably the most painful thing about the entire fall. So
I've heard that Achilles are very painful.
So painful. As a plane flies overhead now with all my other audio issues, I'm like, okay, I'm also in a flight pattern, apparently. So professional podcasting. But now that we've talked, have you thought more about what you will need or should think about as you're traveling?
Well, I guess I feel like with my, as long as let's see. So if I have my phone, I can call somebody and I can lock my van, and I don't have, I'm not traveling with my dog, because I don't have one, but I wouldn't have to worry about that. It kind of simplifies. I feel like I could lock my van and get somewhere. If I don't have service, then I guess I have to climb up into my van and drive somewhere. And if I was more thinking about if, like emergency contacts, if I'm unconscious or something, because sometimes, you get a really good spot and it's really remote, you don't have service, and that's okay because it's beautiful. But if something happens there, that's I don't know, I guess you hope somebody comes by.
But I was surrounded by people, and I had to do it on my own. Other than getting ICU, I had to shuffle to find help, right? But I think that is something, if you are someone who's traveling alone in unpopulated or low dense population areas, having a safety plan, I don't think we think about it.
No, I guess I've thought about it in that I've done over the years a lot of solo trips. I went solo out into the Everglades, and I've done solo backpacking out west. And there's it's kind of part of the calculation is that you are on your own. And I think for me, there is that's like a little spice to an experience. It's a little extra to it in that you are completely dependent on yourself. If something goes wrong, it's up to you to figure it out, and hopefully it's not that bad, and hopefully you can. But to me, that adds an element to it, I guess.
So the risk of being hurt while adventuring, I guess that's what makes it adventuring and the thrill. Yeah, because it's a risk. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Yeah, I get it.
And now it's very rare that you're not, if you don't have service, you're usually not that far from cell service. But back in the day, without cell service, it certainly was even more exciting.
Exciting. Yeah. No cell service, and still, or when we were using payphones.
Yeah.
You'd have to find a phone to call for help.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be close enough. I was about a 2-hour drive from family. And I also I'm kind of bragging here, but I literally have friends and family who, if I said, and I did call to say, hey, I'm letting you know I fell. And one of my other family members said, do we need to drive down and come get you?
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm like, wow, right? Like I'm like, wow. I mean, that is actually huge. I would like to think there's lots of people who could say that they have people who will come and get them. But that was a big, I wasn't calling to say, can you come rescue me? It was just, I'm putting you on notice to say, when I get to because they were on my list to go see. When I arrive, my feet will be up, and I'm going to need, to keep my feet up, part of my visit.
I think I have a decent network of people where I could get somewhere and maybe not stay for a month, but at least I could be laid up for a couple of days until maybe I could catch a flight. Maybe I could leave my van there if I really needed a longer time to kind of rehab.
Yeah. But being injured, this is my first real injury on the road. I mean, I've had heart injury. My feelings get hurt.
And do you have a kit for that? What is it?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, putting your pride and ego in a safe place and, not letting it see the light of day sometimes. But but yeah, no, this is my first physical, I don't even think I haven't been sick. I think I have maybe some cold medicine on board that I've never had to take. I think maybe I had a sour stomach once, but even being sick, I have another cousin who just had the flu. I can't imagine having the flu on board, so much less an actual physical injury. Have you been sick much on the road?
I'm vaccinated. I got a boat going by, and I got a booster, and then 2 days after I left, I got COVID.
Oh.
Unfortunately, it really wasn't bad. I was kind of wiped out for a couple of days, and I was at this beautiful state park in Missouri, Echo Bluff, I think it was, and it was like a brand new $50 million park. It was the nicest state park I've ever been at, and they had free Wi-Fi and great showers. And so I kind of just hunkered down and sat in my van, and I watched Netflix and just took it easy. But I was wiped out for 3 days, and then I was fine.
Right. And you didn't have a dog that you had to walk. That
Right.
And sincerely, that has been one of my biggest challenges, is making sure he's still exercised. So being able to go to a family that has a backyard, like where I'm at now, and where I have been, where he can actually play in a backyard, has saved me so that I can actually have the time to recover. Now I am doing like a recumbent bike. I was able to go to a gym and still, exercise and get my mental health okay. Because here's the other thing: I am active every day. I'm traveling, but I'm hiking, I'm exploring, I'm going. And then all of a sudden I can't do any of those things. So one of the things I had mentioned to the doctor was that, because I finally went to a doctor like on my third week. And I looked at her, I said, I am getting depressed. This is starting to really affect me mentally now, because my whole world has shifted. I've become codependent on family for the welfare of my dog. I'm not at a state park. I'm not planning my next trip. I am literally just trying to recover, and it's messing with me. And it messed with me quickly. That took weeks. And I was like, I'm in a hole. I'm feeling myself slip. When she said I could go do a recumbent bike, I went directly to the gym, sat down on that bike, made sure I wasn't going to overextend my feet or my ankles while I was doing it. And about 10, 15 minutes in, I felt almost like a high, because I hadn't had any endorphins kick in weeks. And I instantly felt better, elevated my mood. And so I've been able to, and now I know I have to exercise and get my heart rate up every single day while I'm injured to maintain my mental well-being. Not just my physical. Super important. Super important.
Yeah, I think of that a lot with aging people with nagging injuries. It feeds on itself. You can't do much, so you do less, and then you don't feel as well, and then you feel like doing less, and it can kind of snowball on you quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you've been happy and then all of a sudden you feel it slipping away, it's important for me to catch it. Like, I can't let it slip. I can't. Yeah. I've worked so hard to find this peace of my mind and feel good. And I can't let this short-term ailment, I mean, it may take months, she said, right? But I can't let it. Months. It's going to take you months to get better. You're going to really be feeling it. You're going to have to really take it easy. She really should stop smoking. She sounds terrible.
I have a dumb story, if you want, about an injury I had when I was hiking.
Oh, because you said it was dumb, I definitely want to hear it.
Well, it was dumb, but it worked. So I was the first time I was out on the Appalachian Trail, I was about 4 miles either side of a shelter, and I had a stress fracture in the arch of my foot, and it was I'm hiking, and every step is like this stabbing pain, but there's really nowhere to go. There's nothing for me to do. So I'd sit down and I'd like cinch up my boot really tight, and I'd try and figure out what I was going to do. And then I'd go another 100 yards, and it was really painful. And so I was trying to think what I could do for arch support. And I had a bunch of Cliff Bars in my bag. And so I took one of them kind of soft Cliff Bars and I put it under the arch of my foot, and that worked. And it kind of molded then to my foot. And so I went, like 100 yards, and I'm like, okay, I can hike again, and I'll see what happens when I get to the next shelter. And so I hiked, and it was great, and it was fine, and it worked. And then I took off my boot, and the Cliff Bar had come out of the bag, and the entire inside of my boot was lined with the peanut butter Cliff Bar. And my sock and everything was completely disgusting. And then if you're in a shelter, there's mice and there's bears, so you got to hang your food. Well, I had to hang my boots too because the entire inside of the boot was like peanut butter. But it worked.
Well, I was going to say it seemed genius, but but when you put it in your shoe, you left it in the wrapper.
Yeah, I did. I left it in the wrapper, but then I hiked like another 4 miles and it
smooshed out.
It smushed out.
Do you... That's awesome. That's awesome. So what did you do the next day? Did you just put another Cliff Bar inside your shoe?
No, I think I had I used like another sock, and really, stress fractures are weird. If you've ever had one, I've had them occasionally, and they're usually only bad for a day or so, or they'll nag for a couple of days, but and they go away. They don't. I mean, my experience has been it's a day or two where they're bad, and I took it. I don't know. I had a short day the next day, and I kind of stopped early that day. And then you're good to go.
Okay, I loved the way you thought outside the box. That is awesome.
That's where you sit there and you go, okay, well, what do I have at my disposal? I got to figure something out.
Right. That was far from a dumb story, by the way. That was a very poignant, helpful story.
Well, at that night at the shelter, when people go, why are you hanging your boots?
That's awesome. No, I love that. That was very smart thinking. Very good. I'm sure. Hopefully, that's going to help someone else in the future.
Yeah, maybe I should do a commercial for Cliff Bar.
The multi-purpose. Except you can't eat it after that. Like, it's no good as far as the food.
You can, but you probably shouldn't.
Okay. Okay. No, you can't eat it after you've walked in it. You can't. You mentioned in a message to me that you almost fell out of your van after we talked.
Yeah, backwards. Oh, man. And I immediately, I think as I was falling, it flashed. Because I think we had just talked. It was like maybe the next morning or later that day. And I don't know, I was doing something. I got turned around. And, I usually have my door open because I've been down in Florida. It's so hot. And I reached up and kind of caught myself on the inside of the van and smacked my hand. And I was terrified for a moment because it was I don't know what was outside, it was like concrete and rocks or a tree or something. It wasn't good. It was no good landing. In my van, I don't have a step. I'm kind of high up. It would have been spectacular.
Would have been. That's one way to say. Yeah, that would have been a definite terrifying experience.
Yeah.
So I hope that if anything, you stay safe.
Thank you.
And continue to watch your step.
Yeah. It's always good if you can learn from other people's misfortune rather than your own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing in this podcast with me as far as safety and falling and getting
absolutely.
back up. All right. Well, be safe out there, please.
You too, Milo. Great talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
According to Paul, a Cliff Bar, whiskey, and a box of Band-Aids is all you'll need. According to my aunt, a full first aid kit with some blood clotting pads and a collapsible cane. Maybe a better plan would be somewhere in the middle. Better to fall with a plan than to just fall. I don't travel thinking of the worst, but it's not a bad idea to remember that sometimes life will put us on our butts, whether we are ready or not. Be safe out there.
Thank you for listening to Milo Talks. Be sure to check out my website at nextexitmilo.com. There you can see links to podcasts, art, and books created from the road. You can also follow Willie and me on Instagram or Facebook at nextexitmilo.